Todd and Rob in the afternoon.
Hey, afternoon delight.
With Todd and Rob. Oh, yeah.
Well, Rob, here we are for the new media show. I should say mabuhay to you because I am 12-hour time zone different than you are right now. So
wow. Okay. Yeah, we couldn't be too much further away, could we?
no, not at all. And literally on the other side of the planet. And
Yeah.
you know what's kind of funny is I got in here Tuesday late, and I had packed pretty heavy. I already had stuff here because I have an apartment here, and so the idea was to come with just a backpack. But oh no,
Right.
I had to haul more gear, a replacement boom arm, just some stuff, and I had this new Roadcaster video that I don't have hooked up yet, and it just, and so when I put the suitcase on the scale at United 69.5 pounds, I'm allowed 70. So I don't know. Of course, I bought I brought a couple bottles of liquor, and just, so anyway, long story short, mission control here. And anyone that's went on my Facebook page recently, you'll see a picture of what I have set up here, and no one should be surprised. It's just full of computer screens. So, but what I did do an investment in, and one thing I'm finding out about the Mac, the Roadcaster Duo, and these new Zbec screens I bought. I don't know if you've ever seen these. They're from a company XEBEC, and they have it's right and left of my monitors. It's very pricey, but very slick. So what I've got is I've got you over here. This screen now is black, and I'll talk about that one in a second. And then I have the normal Mac Pro screen. But I had brought a hub, and counting how many USB and how many USB-C ports I would need, and the Roadcaster does not like being hooked into a hub. You just won't see it. And then, or at least this hub and the Zbec, so I have these two monitors, it won't recognize because it's using DisplayPort. So I was good if this had worked right here.
You had it all figured out. Well, it's probably a driver issue is what it is. So.
Yeah. And the Rode does not like this external USB-C port. So so I what I really had to do, it's not a big deal, is just give up one screen. And so from that instance, it's it's okay for the show. And I also brought a nice camera with me, so I've got
it's a nice sharp image. Yeah, so what kind of a camera do you have now?
This is a Canon I had from this tore down studio. So
so is it a camcorder or is it a SLR?
Camcorder. It's a camcorder.
Camcorder.
Yeah.
Okay.
But much better than the image we had before, because I was pretty blurry when we were doing this before. And now we're on a new... Go ahead.
Just using a webcam, weren't you?
Yeah, but for some reason, using StreamYard and that webcam, it just didn't look good. So, and I tested the webcam, what we're using today. And matter of fact, we should talk about that here for a second. We're using Restream, the studio portion of Restream today. So I'm pretty impressed with this. It's basically a StreamYard replacement. And I was already paying for Restream to do the multicasting. And I got in here and played around. I'm like, this gives us everything we need. And I think the link I sent you this morning will work the next time too. So we'll keep our fingers crossed here.
It's a perma-link of sorts to our studio. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Well, we'll see how perma it is. But we're doing just streaming 720 today. We'll see how it goes. But we're restreaming on, all, and it basically is all built in. So we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on your YouTube channel as well. So we're everywhere that we have been. It's, if you think about it, Rob, Holy crap. Well, how far we have come
Mm-hmm.
in this tech.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I mean, this stuff's getting wild. I'm even starting to play with these video switchers too, because there's a couple of projects that I'm looking at taking on that would involve a multi-camera shoot
Mhm.
type of opportunity and trying to do some in-person recordings, doing conversations amongst, like a host and a guest kind of a format.
Right.
And it increasingly seems like a lot of the big shows on the video side are finding success with that format.
Yeah.
And so I've got a couple of clients that are interested in that, and I'm actually not looking at the Rode video. I'm looking at a similar type of a switcher called the YOLO. I don't know if you're familiar with it,
Yeah, I'm not.
but
I
it's much more compact and it actually has a screen on it too. It's
oh,
almost like you're doing all the inputs
oh,
into
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
it's like
I've
a it's like an iPad of sorts.
I
So
based on what I saw from the YOLO, I would really, really, really look hard at that Rodecaster video. Now, you do have to have an external monitor.
yeah,
Um,
and that's the downside. So it's another piece of
yeah,
equipment that you got to
yeah,
have. But
yeah.
all right,
But for here, I've got an extra monitor right there, that I already
plus
had here, so for me, it
plus
just made sense.
yeah, plus the YOLO supports 4K. The Rode does not. It peaks out at 1080p, I believe.
Yeah, well, the key for streaming, you can't stream 4K.
No, but
This
on the
yeah,
recording side is what I
yeah,
was actually looking
but ag
for.
but
Right.
again, why would you record 4K?
'Cause
Um,
that's the common format that people are uploading in the biggest shows on YouTube.
yeah, I don't know
So,
if I would go that route because you here's the problem with that. Then if you wanna actually have a video podcast, then you gotta dumb it down. So, you've gotta if you
yeah,
wanna
you just re-encode it
yeah.
at a lower
You can't
size.
most people, believe it or not, they put it up in 4K, but most
Mhm.
people don't see it in 4K on YouTube because their bandwidth doesn't support it. So YouTube already scales it, so
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what happens when you upload it to YouTube, it creates an SD version I believe a HD version or a
mm,
1080p version and then also a 4K version.
yeah,
So it can actually stream to whatever, like you said, Todd,
yeah.
the appropriate playback device.
But anyway, yeah, the YOLO for me didn't make a lot of sense. I think its price point is quite a bit higher too, right?
The YOLO Ultra was about 1,400.
Oh,
So it
so
was
it's
only
almost the same price as the
yeah,
Restream.
and it has a lot of the same capabilities except for, well, it doesn't have everything that the Rode has, but
Well, one thing it probably
with the
doesn't have.
advantage that it has, it's got a screen.
Yeah,
So,
but the problem it does probably the thing it doesn't have that you'll need to really watch is good audio inputs
yeah,
because
it doesn't have a XLR kinda setup like the
mm,
Rode does,
so you have to do
which
everything with USB then how do you do audio inputs?
yeah, I was actually gonna use a wireless mic anyway,
Um,
and actually have that feed into one of the USB-C ports.
mm.
So
Well, there's a good thing is there's 7 ways to skin a cat these days.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. And there's a million other attachments that you can get to these things to
Yeah.
get them to work too.
It
There's
it
wireless capability that's
yeah,
increasingly coming. These things will work with, like maybe a combination of
sure.
iPhones.
Yeah.
So you can connect up iPhones to them as well. So it's an interesting world that we're living in, Todd. I mean, this whole threshold of being like a almost of the quality as a commercial broadcaster is actually coming to the fingertips of everyone for just a
Yeah.
few $1,000s.
Well,
So,
it's even cheaper than that, look what we're doing here, and today I didn't need this extra camera, I coulda used the camera off the Mac
yeah.
and, had what I needed. I think too, yesterday when I had not at all I'd basically plugged the Rodecaster video in, made sure it had its firmware upgrade,
Mhm.
and didn't just put it back in the bag. And, so yesterday in the fog, I got in here Tuesday night about of course, I'm a day ahead.
Yeah.
So Monday morning your time, or whatever, I don't know what the hell time it was. Tuesday morning your time.
Yeah.
I got in here and I'm kind of in a fog, and I'm setting things up after I'd actually slept. And I said, started looking at this, thinking, oh, how hard could it be? This is a beast. It'll do a lot. So,
Yeah,
uh,
that's what I've heard about it, is that there's a lot of software configurations in the screen that you
yeah,
have to
yeah.
adjust.
So, and it's not hard. It's just super configurable. And
Mhm.
once you set a profile up, you're good. But so it's just take a few days to figure out the functionality of it. I might not even need it with this Restream.io's
Yeah,
studio. So,
yeah, I would imagine that it has most of the same capability as the Rodecaster Pro Duo. I would imagine.
well,
It's
in
got the
from an
same.
audio standpoint, yeah, it has the
Yeah,
same amplifiers
totally, that's
and
exactly
everything.
what.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I've got
got the same
overkill here.
software and all that stuff that
Yeah.
runs on it.
And
Right.
today I'm using a cam link to link
Mhm.
the camera up. So, and plus, we're recording audio here, and then this software here records the video. So it just automatically records the video. I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
pushing a button or nothing. So that makes it easy.
Does does Restream support, kinda local recordings, or is it all cloud?
It's all cloud.
It's
With
all cloud.
so yeah, and that's the thing I was kind of looking at now versus the Rodecaster video. You have to have an external hard drive hooked to it. So I have an external hard drive with me, but it's got, stuff that I don't it wants first thing it wants to do is to format it. I'm like, no. Because I carry everything, I've got archives of data and it's encrypted, and if I lose the stupid thing, someone can't get access to data on it. So no, I didn't want so I'll have to go buy a hard drive someplace.
You can probably accomplish it with like a stick or something, can't you?
And you can't put a stick in it, so it has to be like an SSD drive, a USB-C SSD drive. And if this
Oh,
yeah, and,
okay.
the right speeds and everything, it probably would work with a regular external hard drive, but everything now is SSD, so I'll just go buy a small SSD and it'll be
Mm.
good to go. And
It's
again,
fast. It's
um,
fast, so,
plenty of stuff to play with here. So, but anyway, here we are. And as Adam Curry said something, they said, if we're not talking about video, we're talking about YouTube. So we should talk about some podcasting stuff. And I am not watching I should log into my Umbrel so that I can watch if any sats come in. Because by the way, we are um,
lit and live?
lit and live right now, yeah, with
Okay.
audio and video. Matter of fact, did I push the bat signal? I need to double check. Oh boy, see, now we're lit and live with video. Uh,
That's right, we haven't really got to our main topics yet anyway,
yeah,
so
yeah. So
we
we're
haven't
good.
missed much.
But yeah. Anyway, so I'm on about no sleep. My clock is completely whacked. At 2:30, I finished up the job. And, thought, "Okay, I got about 4.5 hours before I gotta be up to be on with Rob," and guess what? Psh, yeah, whatever. My body said, You don't need sleep, you need to be awake." So, yeah.
So, I noticed, Todd, that you put out some information, this was a couple days ago now, but, about the share of Apple Podcast stuff. I don't know if we talked about that in a prior episode, but,
Well, we've
I
been
guess
putting that report
Apple's
out
losing share.
we've been putting that report out every month,
Yeah.
so it's not down that much. Yeah, a little
Well,
bit,
yeah, yeah.
over the year, I guess, or whatever the time frame is that we
Oh, is it? It's not just, it's okay, it's a
or
annual thing?
6
Is that what
months
it
or
is?
something. No,
Oh,
we're putting out a new report every month.
okay. So okay,
Yeah,
in
I probably
January.
I have to go
Okay.
look at what the time frame is, because I'm not
Okay, so the percentage of downloads delivered to Apple Podcasts was 56% in January of 2024,
yeah,
and what it is today, the the 10th month of the
mm,
year, is 47.3%.
yeah, so they've had a drop. And of course, it varies month to month, and
I would imagine,
yeah,
yeah.
you can go look at we put this out every month, so you can go back and look at the stagger on how it's done.
Though I would say, Todd, I think we have to back up and we have to look at the big picture here, of what this trend line means, right? And what it means for Apple and what it means for the podcast medium. Apple has been the stalwart in the medium for all these years, and it does appear, and it's not just you reporting this, it's also being reported by Buzzsprout, as well as Libsyn, all-time lows in the percentage. Now, if it continues on this on this course over the next couple of years, Apple's going to have a little bit of a issue. So I don't know what's your kind of thought on that, Todd.
Well, you look at the actual numbers, at least for us, we've always done well with desktops and with Android. So in this
Let's get you
particular,
focused on that, but that's
yeah. So if we
yeah.
look at, Apple was at 47.3, Chrome, mobile and desktop was at 12, other Android apps at 7, Apple Other, in other words, Apple Core Media was 5.48. So if we look at iOS and Android apps, Overcast, Podcast Addict, Pocket Cast, Castbox, Apple still is, as far as it may not be Apple Podcasts per se, but you have other apps that are doing well. You look at Overcast, 4.47, um, Podcast
So,
Addict.
Todd, are you saying that that means that the consumption is spreading out along other apps
Yeah.
on iOS? Is what you're saying?
Well, it's, for us, our Spotify numbers are still way, way, way below anyone else at 2.88.
Wow,
So,
that is pretty
that
low.
it's
Yeah.
low. So again, I think it's really determined by the makeup of shows. But you scroll up in that report and you look at our top shows: business, education, health, fitness, news, religion, and spirituality. Religion, spirituality, not a big thing on Spotify.
Right.
Education, not a big thing on Spotify. I don't
Yeah.
know about business, but there's a few categories there that are not probably listened to more on Spotify than other categories. Now, we've been doing some look at that, and we've seen some incidental proof that people are not listening to church shows on Spotify. That's near zero. So
Yeah.
when you have a big user base, a massive user base of, I think we've got like 1,200 or something like that, churches hosting with us. You take that number being zero, it drags everything else down dramatically. So if I break it
Mhm.
out by category, there's categories that are 8, 9, 10% on Spotify. But as an overall, based on our business alone at 288, it's just because we have several categories that are not listened to over there.
Oh, got it.
So, I would bet you if you went over to Buzzsprout, I bet you they don't have a large number of, um, I bet you they don't have a large number of religious shows. Why do we have a large number of religious shows? Religious shows all have websites. Churches all have websites.
Right.
They're all WordPress. They're using PowerPress. So,
Well, if you look back historically, Buzzsprout has done pretty well with Spotify. I mean, if
oh
you look
yeah,
at their percentages, and to some degree, Libsyn has been tracking that direction for a while now
the
too.
question is which categories are their
Right.
primary business? They don't reveal that. I think we're the only one that reveals our top 5. It's probably dumb of us to do that, but the top
Genres,
5
you mean?
category,
Right.
yeah, as far
Right.
as, those are the sectors that we do most business in.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think what we see and what we want is, yeah, we want people to move to new apps. We want them to move to Pocket Cast. We want them to move to the podcasting 2.0 apps at podcastapps.com. We want them to, because of this new functionality we've added. I've done a concentrated effort on my show to get people to move, my tech show, and it's hard. People get pretty locked in with the apps they use. So if
Mhm.
if I get 3, 4, 5% to move to one of these new apps, that takes away from somebody, at least on
Yeah.
my show percentages.
Yeah, or people are splitting their time between multiple apps.
Yeah, I don't know if they are.
Really?
And do you
Okay.
split your time between apps?
Yeah. Mhm.
Uh, I don't too
That's probably
much.
unusual. That's just because I like to play around with different apps.
Well, I use Fountain, and they've had some challenges recently. But I use Fountain primarily for all the Podcasting 2.0 shows. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I still use Apple Podcasts a lot. It's just, it's easy. It's a go-to. It's got all my main subscriptions already set up, and
Yeah.
I don't have to be bothered. So, it's better for worse. I guess that's just the kind of the way it is. But I think we have to, Apple. I think Apple. How do I say this?
Mhm.
We've talked with the Apple
Ted.
folks.
Ted.
Well, talked with the Apple team,
Yeah.
and they're taking input, and the conversations are good. I can't talk about, because it's, I'm not supposed to say what we talked about, but we have good conversations.
Yep.
We tell them our concerns, and they tell us whatever they can say in the Apple way.
Which isn't
Uh,
much usually. Right.
it's not too much, but I think Apple realizes, at least they don't say it. So I'm only gonna hypothesize here that they understand.
Oh, I'm sure they do, and if they do and they would like to make a change, the the lead times on change is pretty long, so
Long. They can't be as
that's the other
nimble
part of it.
as
Right.
they can't be as nimble as Marco and Overcast or Pocket Cast or and
Mhm.
the Podcasting 2.0 stuff. The host can't even keep up with what's happening over there.
Yeah.
We've just added a few new features that are coming out next week, and, we had them in the dev cycle, for a little while, and it
Yeah.
it is what it is. So I don't
Yeah,
know, I don't but still it's 47%.
it is, but it used to be up in the mid-60s
Well,
not that long ago.
Rob, if, 10 years ago, I had 5 hosting competitors, now there's 30. So things
Oh,
change.
I thought it was more than that.
Well,
I
whatever the
guess it
number
depends
is.
on how global you're talking about, I think. Yeah.
Well, I think if you put the list together, there's lots of people lots of people that are in the little indie hosts too, so probably more than 30. Matter of fact, that reminds me, Fireside is officially been sold, I guess, or change of hands or something. So, um,
That's interesting. I hadn't
yeah,
heard that. That's good.
yeah, I saw
I
a
suppose.
mention of it about a release being done, and I saw something on Mastodon about it. So I haven't reached out to. I'm having a brain fart here. The founder of Fireside, but
Um,
a
yeah,
long
I'm drawing a
time.
blank right
Oh my
now too.
god, he's gonna kill me for this show. But
I'm trying to blank too, I'm just as bad. So, yeah,
it's an
it'll
old
come to me
guy.
probably 5 minutes from now. Well
Absolutely.
well, speaking of some big announcements in the podcast hosting space,
Yeah.
beyond just what's happening to Apple, as Libsyn announced, and if you follow pod news, you're gonna see this, but, I had heard it too from a few contacts that I have, that Libsyn has announced, a new CEO, and this new CEO has pretty deep roots in the podcast hosting business. It just isn't connected to Libsyn.
No,
He
and it's
was
yeah, go ahead.
he's the co-founder and former CEO of podcast host Megaphone,
Yeah.
which was acquired by Spotify back in November of 2020. And Brendan, who's the new CEO, left Megaphone Spotify back in February of 2022. So he's he was brought. Did know that the Libsyn board was looking at like 3 candidates for the new CEO, and I was just waiting bated breath for them to actually announce who that pick was. and looks like they've done it, and it seems to have gotten a fairly favorable response. But I do think it's an interesting juxtaposition around Libsyn and the strategy of a podcast host in the marketplace right now.
Yeah. It's curious to me. I wonder if he had a 2-year non-compete.
Probably.
Yeah. So here you have basically someone that joined the enemy, which is Spotify, and had an exit, you know,
Mhm.
and then got to see that ecosystem for however long, and
Yep.
then built a very successful business. Now coming over to Libsyn, there could be a monumental change over there. But the
Yeah,
question
and
is it gonna be more advertising focused than hosting focused?
yeah, and Brendan had spent a couple of years, I guess, with another tech startup, trying to help them a lot. I think it was. I'm trying to remember what the industry was that he was working in. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But he was outside of the podcast business for a couple of years, so he wasn't involved
Yeah,
in podcasting for a couple of years. So
yeah,
this re-entry into the podcast space, I would say that the timing of this is probably pretty good for Libsyn and their particular situation that they have
okay.
themselves in right now.
Is that what you wanna
Um,
call it?
well, it's a ongoing saga, just put it to you that way. But there's other things that are going on behind the scenes, and Pod News alluded to this as well as the company took out some equity financing off of a capital raise back in 2021, and I guess I heard, I don't know if this is 100%. There was some promises around a
Yeah,
public offering or something like that
yeah.
that haven't been delivered on,
Well,
and
if you read their latest financial report, it was something to the tune of 20 some $1,000,000 or something like they had to make some folks good on or something to that effect.
yeah, well, that's what the issue is that I guess the board was successful in terminating the contractual
Oh.
liquidated damages obligations. And I think, there's more details behind this too
Oh,
around
yeah.
the whole public offering part, but it's really part of this is kinda like, the ongoing process of
Yep.
Libsyn kinda cleaning up their past.
And
And yeah.
what's sad though is it doesn't look like there's any foreseeable road to being relisted again because,
Well, from what I heard, it's very expensive
yeah,
to
like
get
another
relisted.
$20,000,000, right?
Right, exactly, and that could have been, the difference between the company being profitable or showing a massive loss against
Right, right.
the
And
alternative with
I
their
did
investors.
I did
Right.
hear there's a way to sell your stock back if you have stock over there, but you're just gonna get, you know,
Pennies. Yeah.
pennies. It ain't even worth it.
Yeah, and really, how would you value that from a market perspective too at this
Right
point?
now, yeah.
I don't know.
But, I think it's, I made a comment, recently, um, everyone's raising prices. You look at the whole world, everything,
Mhm.
every business has had an increase in
Now,
of
look at what
cost,
StreamYard did up, what was
right?
it,
Doubled or whatever it was.
80% or whatever it was,
Yeah,
right?
and here, if you think about it, Blubrry hasn't raised its prices in 19 years.
I don't think really anybody has that is in the
So,
hosting business. Yeah,
at some point,
yeah.
I had a 13% increase in healthcare costs last year. That's what my increase was in 2024.
I know.
So
Yeah.
you keep
Car
chipping away.
insurance, health insurance, all that stuff has just
Yep.
skyrocketed.
You keep chipping away, at your
Yeah.
margin, and then all of a sudden there's no more margin. So
Yeah.
what do you do? And if you haven't raised and would raising prices be hosting suicide? If I said,
Yeah.
"Okay, I'm gonna raise my prices 10%," I think people would have a absolute shit fit.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, there's ongoing changes, consolidations. I know I'm part of a kind of a discussion group that
I'm in
is
that group too.
comprised. Yeah, there was some talk about kind of the struggles that the industry is having around the the influence of video, and it keeps coming up over and over and over again. um, these these topics, and we'll talk a little bit more about
But Rob,
uh,
I'm not hearing
YouTube.
that from podcasters though. Here's the thing. We're not hearing that from podcasters. We have to remember that the
Well, you're
video
not necessarily, but that doesn't mean
okay,
that other people aren't.
the video piece is a concocted way to get more advertising. So let's just be aware before as we hear people talking about this,
Well,
it's
it's more
all
revenue is what you're talking about, not more advertising, but more revenue. Right,
yeah,
right.
from
From
advertising.
advertising.
Right.
Right.
For the few shows that actually can monetize. So, by the way, we had some chats come in.
Mm.
Stefan says, Fireside founder Dan and Benjamin. That's the name both of us
Dan,
were
right,
trying to
right, right, right.
pull out of our head.
Yeah,
Uh,
Dan doesn't hang out in the industry very much.
no, no. And
So,
the news
yeah.
is hot on this move acquired by Spotify for 230 million just 6 years ago. So he's very well prepped for some kind of exciting moment at Libsyn. This is from Beauty, but my posts are Brennan Monahan. Yeah, CEO. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So, um,
Yeah, I've done panels with Brendan before in the past, and he's a
I
nice
think
guy. He's a good
I,
guy.
I
So,
think he's going to have his hands full.
well, I think anybody trying to run, and you're the same position, Todd. Anybody running a podcast hosting company right now is in challenging times, I think.
Well, I think podcasters need to realize that and
Yeah,
understand that you run
yeah.
to YouTube. If you make the run to YouTube and you run away from RSS, um, there will be consequences for that
Well,
over the
that's not
long term.
my position. My position is to do both, but
Yeah,
it's not everybody's going to feel like that's the right approach for them.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you usually have, and actually what happened with YouTube this week with Pod News, they joined, I guess, Sam on the Pod News Weekly
What
podcast talking
YouTube
about,
did? Oh,
yeah, yeah, their head of podcasting
oh yeah. I
based
didn't
out of
listen
the
to that
UK.
episode yet.
Yeah, so she talks about, how YouTube thinks about podcasting, and it's an interesting read, and it really kinda points out to the things that she's heard in the industry too, and I think she's kind of parroting what other people are saying as well. It's not something unique, but,
Well, I
um
think her position on RSS was pretty clear. It was fuck RSS.
well, yeah, I think that it generally is the position, you know, even though they won't admit it publicly necessarily, but it does feel like that's the direction that it's going, right? Is that those big platforms find RSS to be an impediment to what they
Well,
want to accomplish.
it's because they're not playing along in what we're doing in podcasting 2.0 that solves many of those questions, and they want a controlled environment. They want to be a kingdom again and have their gatekeepers back in place. Move us all the way back to 2004.
And that's what makes me worried about what we're seeing with Apple, Todd. I mean, if you really back up and you look at the big picture of what's happening in the market, you know, Apple has been pretty aggressive, staunch supporter of RSS. Though,
Sure.
I think we both have issues with sometimes their approach with it, but
Well,
it's nonetheless that they're a solid supporter. And if they're losing market share at a dramatic pace, then that's shifting power over to these bigger players that don't
the
like RSS.
another thing that they really impacted and something I don't like anymore and something that podcasters need to be aware of, if you get and this doesn't happen very often, but they're not feeding when you load your podcast app now, um, it's not RSS that is presenting to you. They got the source from RSS, built their library, and then what they show you now is from
Cache data.
as well from their built data from their directory.
Right.
So if you get delisted now off of Apple Podcast, you're gone. There's no recovery. Um, 10 years ago when the one guy got deplatformed, he really wasn't deplatformed because you were still subscribed to as an RSS feed. He just went away from the directory. Now, if you're delisted at Apple, you're gone.
Well,
And
because your library and the directory are the same database. They're not separated like they used to be. Because the old architecture was, and the same thing that Microsoft did with Zune when I was working back there, is that they were two separate databases, right?
yeah,
So you had the directory that had all the metadata, the artwork, all the episodes linked to in the database. And then when you subscribed, it basically transferred all that data over to a library
right,
database, which stored all of that information. But that information was pulled dynamically
yeah,
from the RSS feed.
yeah.
So there's a lot of people that don't really understand that older architecture of how podcasting used to work and how it's different now.
So
Um,
Matt Madero says my StreamYard bill just went to $880. So
a
Matt,
year, probably. Right.
yeah. So Matt, you may want to check out Restream.io. I pay $50 a month for this, but I primarily used it before because you use it purely for Restream. And Ferdinand Friday said, "Hey guys, so hey back."
Todd, so can you do graphics, overlays, logos, and stuff
Yeah,
like this with this platform?
yeah. I just haven't. I've only been playing with this thing for a day, so
Oh, okay.
so
Okay.
like
Okay.
here's your. I've got.
Oh, that's old. That's old. That's not even active email.
Yeah. Oh, this is
Uh,
old.
yeah. That's
Oh,
not an active email.
what is the email now?
It's just Rob Greenlee at Gmail.
Oh,
Really.
okay. So I can fix that though. Have the
Yeah, I'd like to
technology.
get that email reactivated again, but I just haven't done it.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I was just curious what the overlay capability is,
Yeah,
backgrounds.
it's actually pretty powerful, to be honest with you.
Is it?
So
Okay.
yeah, it's not bad. I'm gonna play with it here a little bit. So there we go. Now it's better.
That'll work.
All right.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about I guess the presidential candidates are all kind of, I guess, stampeding or not over towards being guests on the Joe Rogan Experience. It's interesting to me that none of the presidential candidates have been a guest on Joe Rogan's podcast, which is surprising because all these presidential candidates have been on everybody else's podcast.
Well,
I'm just curious your thoughts on that, and if I mean, that's the biggest one in the world,
some
right?
presidential candidates have had great interviews on platforms. Some presidential candidates has been on softball.
Yeah, I
Softball.
think the only one that I can think of that's done it is RFK Jr. has been on, I
Oh, I
think,
don't know
Rogan.
about podcasts, but no one's been on. Neither the VP or Trump have been on
Joe
Rogan.
Rogan show.
But I
Right.
heard they're going to limit it to an hour. Is that? I heard if
I
it
haven't heard
happens.
that.
Oh,
And I don't think that Kamala Harris has agreed to doing it. She doesn't agree to a lot of interviews.
yeah, that's what I was kind of hinting at. But,
Yeah.
yeah, I
But
noticed this.
Trump likes to talk, boy. He
Yeah,
just
oh,
goes
of
and goes.
course he does.
Yeah.
I see this camera's glitching a little bit. Did I
Yeah.
freeze on your side?
Yeah, I noticed that it'll kind of do something weird sometimes.
So let me see if I can.
It's kind of a creative expression there, Todd. To some
Yeah.
degree.
So let me switch to a different camera and see what happens. Now I'm on the laptop camera, so it's just as good as this other camera.
Yeah.
All right, maybe
I
even
think it's
better because I'm looking down at you instead of looking up at the camera. So and one half
good.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. Good skin color and all that stuff is good.
Yeah, it's better. I didn't white
Yeah.
balance the other camera before we got going. Yeah, I'm just surprised that it's such an underutilized medium. when
What?
it comes
Oh,
to
what,
politicians.
podcasting? Oh, I've been seeing politicians get on podcasts for months and months and months.
Well,
So,
I'm not. I guess I don't listen to those types of shows. So I don't want to. I don't
yeah.
want to throw my computer across the room and smash it. It gives me.
Well, yeah, yeah.
There's
But
a
yeah, I think it's been and I think that's the talk of this election cycle is the impact of independent media
Mm.
on getting the word out as the viewers to mainstream media falls off a cliff. We are rapidly transitioning over to online opportunities for these candidates, and they've been doing it.
What's interesting, and I'm not really going to talk too much in detail about it, but here at my apartment, I've got like 3,000 channels, and I don't even know.
Like cable channels kind of stuff,
Well,
or
some kind of channels. That's all
oh,
I'm gonna
some kind
say.
of okay.
But they're
You're talking
every
about content here, Todd? Is
I'm
that what
talking
you're really
about
talking?
I'm talking about ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, Al Jazeera. I mean everything,
Oh,
every sport,
everything. Okay.
everything in the world. And I'm sure that's a legitimate service.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
All I know, it works on my TV, and there's a little cable box underneath here, and I have no idea the hocus pocus that
Mm,
that's doing. But
okay.
it was kind of, and I don't have
And a
regular
VPN access here, Todd? Is that what we're
uh,
talking about?
something, some sort of IPTV. So I don't watch any mainstream news. Maybe I'll go to a website once in a while and see a sound clip or nothing. But I made the mistake yesterday afternoon. I said, "Oh, this is exciting," and got all these channels that I'm looking through. And matter of fact, it's got those kind of channels too, Rob. That's kind of the funny part too. It's got some
Oh,
other some other content.
more
And
racy channels, is that what you're saying, Todd?
yeah, yeah. So the it anyway. I had one news channel on for about maybe 10 minutes, and I felt my blood pressure going up. So
So, Todd, I won't ask you on what side of the political spectrum that occurred.
it's all of them. They're all idiots. So,
Well, that's true.
you know,
On the mainstream media side, right, right.
yeah, yeah, and it's
I mean,
just
you have to take a side these days, Todd. Didn't you get the memo?
okay, well, I'm pretty moderate, so it's like, on some things I'm conservative, and some things I'm very liberal. So
Mm,
it's kind of a
and
mix.
and other things probably, was it libertarian, maybe?
Yeah, probably. I'm probably actually a libertarian. If I look at the definition, I've never had I did vote, so I did send in my absentee ballots. I did vote before
Oh,
I
you
left.
did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, I find how they make it easy. You can vote the party ticket. You can pick Republican or Democrat, or you can mix it. And I'm like, they shouldn't have that so that you can just straight line vote. You should have to actually do your homework and, you know,
Yeah,
pick your
just
candidate,
just list them all in one row, right.
you know.
Yeah.
But and I'm sure most people don't even do any research. They just go in there and pull the trigger on a party and be done.
I think that happens a lot with the down party, or the down candidates from the national election, where
Mm,
people don't really have access to a lot of information about
yeah,
those local congressmen or the local representatives and
yeah,
the attorney generals in
sure.
their their county or something like that.
And I don't
They
even
just don't have a
understand
lot of
why
information.
I don't
Right.
even understand why those are partisan votes. It doesn't make any sense to me, but
Mm,
it is what it
yeah.
is.
Yeah. But anyway, that's coming up in a couple weeks. I don't know what that means. From what I've heard, it has not been a very, like I said, outstanding cycle for political advertising and podcasting.
Mm.
I've heard that it was expected to be something much bigger than it has turned out to be.
Well, I know Hawaii, going back to just the voting thing, I spent a few
Mhm.
days in Hawaii checking on my house and seeing my
Mhm.
son, being out there for a few days. Um, for the first time in many years, I've been gone from Hawaii for 5 years, and they finally got the information that I'm not voting in Hawaii no more because they kept sending me an absentee ballot, and, I thought that's not supposed to happen. You shouldn't get 2 absentee ballots. If you register to vote someplace, the other it that so finally, after 5
Mhm.
years, they didn't send it this year, so
Yeah, I had the same thing happen when I moved out to Connecticut from Washington State, because in Washington State, every ballot is done via mail.
so
There are no
you could have voted twice
in-person
then.
voting in Washington State.
See,
It's
you could have
all
voted twice then.
well, technically not, because from when I lost my registration because they matched up the databases and saw that
Uh,
I had changed addresses.
yeah. So
So that disallowed that Washington State ballot.
yeah.
So,
For a while, Shoko was getting, a ballot as well, but she's not a citizen, she's got a green card, and
mm,
she couldn't understand how she got on the rolls to vote.
well, that's what's been going on all across the country. There's been a lot of purging of, non-citizens from the voter rolls.
Yeah. So I think she can vote local, but she'd gotten a national ballot a couple
Yeah,
of times, so
yeah, yeah. So
anyway,
so
and that's
anyway, and
all.
I also saw that the Audioboom folks released their quarter 3 2024 update where their revenue was up 34%
That's
year over
impressive.
year to
That's a
18.8 million.
that's a big number.
It is.
Yeah, it's a big
It's
number.
it
Advertising
says
based CPMs were $66 or something like that.
up
And CPM
79% from last year,
yeah.
and the company
They're
made, 1,000,000 in profit.
well, they're one of the few that are raking in those kinds of numbers.
It's interesting because I don't think Audioboom's a hosting platform, I don't think. Are they?
Uh, be honest with you, I think they are.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
they built their own tech. Yeah, because for a long time, Spreaker did their or well, Spreaker, Blog Talk Radio did their dynamic ad insertion
Yeah, it
capabilities.
says, biggest shows in podcasting. But I don't know. I don't see anything in here for
Yeah,
yeah, who knows? I don't see any pricing or anything on their website.
and then I also saw, uh, the Australian ABC posted findings from a project where the broadcaster used AI to optimize episode titles and descriptions,
Hmm.
and, what they found it wasn't really any better than human created titles and descriptions.
Well, I will have a differing poll on that.
Well,
Yeah, and I think there's a lot the methodology is important. If you've spent time and like we did, we spent a massive amount of time
on the prompting?
on the prompting
Mhm.
and making sure that and again, it's a 50-50 thing. I think about 50% of the time I get a good prompt and 50% of the time I don't, as far as a good title. But again, it's all on your inputs. And if you as the podcaster know what your primary topic was, what your lead topic for the show is, it kind of helps. So it's really in how the sausage is made on, what type of output you get from titles. But definitely summaries are much better than
Oh,
90% of humans are putting out.
yeah, it says, it says here also that it was found to be very helpful with summarizing
Yeah. Yeah, the
content,
summaries are
right?
pretty incredible. Matter of fact, we've had some challenges. We're about ready to switch models because I've not been happy with the summaries. We've been doing some ABC testing, and we're going to switch to a different engine for summaries that's gotten a little better than the one we're on now. So probably gonna pull that switch next week. So it's one of these things that it's not a one size fits all, and people are saying, "Oh, hocus pocus," but no, it's monitoring and updating, because if you just test with one platform, if you just use OpenAI,
Yeah.
Well, Claude may have made improvements, or Llama may have made improvements, or
Mhm.
there's a whole bunch of models out there. So some models are better at one thing or the other. And what we did is we made our model so that I could switch models based upon each individual prompt. So I don't have to switch all of it. I can go to one model for one thing, another model for another. Um, and that really is helping.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I also noticed that this test that was done by Australia ABC also highlighted cultural differences in the AI.
yeah, and
Um, right.
we've
And
run
that's
into that.
kind of based on
Yeah,
writing style,
yep,
right?
yep. We've actually are now retooling because we have some of the UK customers saying, "Hey, this thing is summarizing like an American." So
Mhm.
we're going to allow people to set nationality essentially, so that we can make sure that when we tell the model to write a summary, they speak as a Brit. They don't speak as a Yank, as they would say. So yeah, we've seen that too, and it's something we're changing based upon because we didn't think about it when we initially built it. So you do have to have some sort of a user persona of the host to make sure that if you think about it, if you have someone that's recording in English that's from India, as per se, their mannerisms are completely different than how uh, even American or British person would speak, and Australians the same way.
Mhm.
So you need to make sure you tell it, who the persona is, and write in this particular language. So we're learning as well and making tweaks. So I agree with that.
Hey, Todd, I could connect up to the show Chat GPT 4.0 if you wanted to ask it a question about the podcasting space. I
You,
don't know. Are
you
you
know,
open to that?
we can play around with it. I think I see some size of exasperation out there.
Oh, you
Uh,
think so?
yeah. What have you got it hooked to your phone and you're going to let
Yeah,
it?
I do. I do.
Uh, uh, so how'd you do that? You connected into the Roadcaster and then.
Yep. Yeah, it's already talking to OpenAI right now, Todd.
Oh,
So if
it
you
is.
wanted to ask it a question, it'll answer.
All right, let's see how bad it messes this up. So, tell me a little something about Rob Greenlee.
Mm,
Did it
oh my
take
god.
it? You weren't ready. This ought to be funny.
Okay, I'm gonna try it again.
All right. Tell me something about Rob Greenlee.
Hey, Rob Greenlee. I was created by OpenAI, a research organization dedicated to developing advanced artificial intelligence. They designed me.
Well, I
Hey,
just
Spruce. I was created by.
all right. I'm
Sure.
giving.
What's up?
Tell us
Got it.
about.
I'm here whenever. Sure. Let me know what you're curious about. What would you like me to tell you about?
Tell me about Rob Greenlee.
Rob Greenlee is a seasoned podcaster and media professional with extensive experience in podcasting, live streaming, and new media. He hosts multiple shows, including the New Media Show and Spoken Life Show, where he shares insights into the podcasting industry. Rob is also exploring a potential role with Believe Podcast Network, focusing
What?
on talent procurement part. Is there something
Wow.
specific you'd like to know? Sounds like that might have been a lot of information.
I
Is
think
there a particular area about you're welcome? If you have any more questions,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't know to interrupt and to hold. And yeah, so you definitely got unless there's some were you even ever talking to that network, Rob? Believe, I
Oh,
don't even know who that is.
yeah, I've talked to him before. Sure.
So it
Somehow
found
I picked it up.
it
Right.
just made some shit up right there.
Right.
Oh,
Exactly.
so now we have to mark our show AI generated, Rob, because we've
We
used
do?
AI in the show.
Okay.
AI
looks like we've added
stupidity.
a data.
What?
Oh my god, people are gonna hate
Sometimes
us.
Hey, Can you answer a question here? What do you see as the future of podcasting?
The future of podcasting looks bright and continues to evolve. We can expect more integration of video content as audience demand for visual elements grows. Interactivity might also increase with features like live polling or Q&A directly within podcast platforms.
Okay, so
Additionally,
you can stop.
we'll likely
So here's the thing. Here's the thing. You have to understand, this is not a prediction machine. Okay, it is a large language model that is looked up at millions of bits of data, and it just
Mhm.
makes shit up. It has no predictive capability. When you ask it a question like that, it 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 has nary a sense. It can't do predictions. It's just making words up that it's seen somewhere else. So this is a very bad use case of a large language model. We are not at a point where these things have we're reasoning, but the reasoning is very weak and it's still got stuff to go. But if you're using this tool to try to predict the future, good luck with that.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. Well,
The better
it has
question
access to lots of information.
the
That it
better
would
question to ask it is, what secret information do you know about Libsyn?
You want me to plug it in and
Yeah,
you can find out?
now we'll see if we can find anything out.
Let's see. Oh,
Yeah.
ask away, Todd.
So what top secret information do you know about Libsyn that you have found on the web?
Hmm,
Didn't work.
Let me try it again.
See, people are hating this already. We're gonna get
Testing
destroyed.
1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, try it now.
Okay, so what top secret information have you found on the web about Libsyn that they don't want revealed to the public?
I don't have access to real-time information or the ability to browse the web, so I can't find or share any top secret information about Libsyn or any other company. My knowledge is based on publicly available information up to September 2021. If you have questions about Libsyn or podcasting in
Okay,
general,
thank
feel
you.
free to ask.
Or Blubrry. Why don't you give us some output about Blubrry?
September 2021, what model are you using, Rob?
Well, this is the
It,
one. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Blubrry is a popular podcast hosting service known for its robust analytics, customizable players, and WordPress integration through the PowerPress plugin. It's a solid choice for podcasters looking for reliable hosting,
Hmm.
detailed statistics, and is there something specific you'd like to know about Blubrry or
No,
podcast hosting in general?
that's
Who
All
enough.
is the
right. If you
CEO?
have any other questions, the CEO of Blubrry, as of my last update in October 2023, is Todd Cochrane. He's been a significant figure in the podcasting industry for many years.
Okay.
Rob, please tell me that you're not going to do a podcast having this answer and response with this thing.
Why not, Todd? If I structure all the prompts, it could be an interesting conversation. But we'll see.
Again, you're going to have to fact check live. Number one, you have to check the out.
Fact check the AI. I have to fact check the AI.
Absolutely, because it runs homes to mama just like it did with you. But you think about joining the Believe network? Okay. Where did he get that shit? Come on.
I
So
don't know.
you have to QA the outputs. It's not perfect. And again, this is not AI. This is a large language model. And it's using predictive information to be able to determine what it's going to tell you. And it's, again, if you're using this for ideation, that's great. If you ask what are the next 10 topics I should do on this subject, Yeah, it's going to give you 10. Or if you ask it, what would be
Yeah.
5 great hosts for this topic? It's going to give you a list.
Mhm.
But predictive stuff, it's a fool's errand to ask it predictive stuff. And also have to be careful in putting this stuff out, because right now that input, what we just did there, unless I cut it out, is going to be picked up and and input, and it's going to think, it's going to validate. It's going to go and they're going to think you're working for this believed network. So what we're doing is we're getting bad information, and then we're going to somewhere down the road, this show will be picked up and indexed. And guess what? It's going to have more bad information. So it's compounding. And this is the trouble we're going to run into if
Mhm.
people just allow shit to be put on the net. It's going to collapse itself. So they're going to have to figure out a way, and I don't know if they can, to stop this thing from, the
Well,
next.
yeah, I think, Todd, the other element to this too, is that, well, how did it get that information
I
about?
found it somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, so what that is telling us is that the AI is learning, right? It's out there picking up information from all sorts of sources. It can also be sources from the person that's being referred to, right? It could be picked up off of a resume or off of a social media post, or it could be picked up,
Yeah.
all sorts of places, right?
The
But is it
description.
picking it up from like email? Is it picking it up from
Oh,
other types of private
hopefully,
communications?
hopefully not emails. But,
Right.
the information it gave for Blubrry was basically our marketing speak that we have
Yeah, it
had
was like a press
online.
release, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Well, it's all true. It isn't like your
But
press release
again
is false,
but
but
again
yeah.
but again, if you look at outputs and you don't QA the outputs, you can get in real trouble. Even with podcasters that are doing summarization of
Mhm.
text, every once in a while, it'll run home to mama and put something in there like, "I didn't say that." And it'll get it wrong. So, we're by far not, this thing is not perfect at this point. It's going to get better. I believe they're going to figure out a way to make it not collapse on itself. Otherwise, a lot of billions of dollars being spent on data centers and power plants to support it will have been flushed down the drain, which, it could be, you know, it could be Web 2.0 all over again.
Yeah.
So, or the dot com collapse all over again.
So Sandy Wilhelm, uh, the head of podcasts and news at YouTube partnerships in the UK, she made a comment about, well, what is a podcast on YouTube?
Hmm.
The short paragraph that she quoted didn't say anything about RSS. It just said long form, unscripted storytelling with unique intimacy between creators and audience, integrated as playlists, where episodes are videos, allowing flexible consumption via audio and video. Pretty, pretty generic, but it doesn't say anything about portable
No, they don't.
media or
No,
portable RSS
no,
delivered
no.
content.
It's a hijacking of the again, and they're a big 8,000-pound gorilla. They can put the messaging out they want. Everyone, their butts, and
Yeah, she's also quoted in saying, "How is YouTube enhancing podcast experiences?" And one of the sentences in here is, "Younger audiences prefer video podcasts, while older generations lean towards audio. Multi-format opportunities, shorts, vlogs, live streams engage younger audiences, especially Gen Z."
well, those Gen Zers do grow up.
They do. Does that mean that they're going to embrace audio more?
Yeah, who knows? I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with video, but let's just, let's hold the line here a little bit and understand that you can do both and you can build effective audiences. It's just a different process.
Mhm.
Most people will choose not to do it, which is, okay. But audio is audio.
Yeah. Yeah, so they do mention RSS in the conversation. Um, it seems like, YouTube's support of RSS is a strategic move that could be temporary.
Is that what they said?
No, that's actually an interpretation
Mm.
of what what was said. Um,
Well, they hate RSS
yeah,
because guess what? They can't make money off RSS.
yeah, so this is my interpretation of what was said there, and I think both of us would agree that that is likely the case, though we don't have any hard evidence that that's the case. It says, "While RSS integration simplifies podcast delivery and allows traditional podcasters to get their content onto YouTube." So, if you think about it as a one-way path,
Mhm,
there's no off ramp here.
mm-mm.
That would mean that, the platform is sucking up content, right? But it is a video first platform.
Of course.
So right. So them ingesting audio to make video is, I think it's clear what's going on.
Well, do you see any successful podcast that are audio only on YouTube? No, they don't. In their podcast section, they don't even have any that are audio only. They're all video. And their
Mhm.
YouTube channels, mostly without it's amazing the conversations we've been having with people that have come over and are using our VidTopod product.
Mhm.
They had no idea. We're getting
Right.
the conversations like, "Wow," you
Yeah, I
know?
mean, it's true that YouTube's approach here is, initially attracting content creators, and they happen to be podcasts.
Yeah.
um, and easing them in with a familiar RSS kind of delivery method. Now, granted, it's interesting that they're not receiving video files this
No.
through RSS.
No, not at all.
Um, yeah, so you're trying to drive people to upload the video. It's the
Yeah,
same thing that Spotify's doing
yeah,
too, right? Just
absolutely.
the direct upload of video. So, yeah.
As podcasters, you have to be careful what you wish for here, and I think
Mhm,
people need
mhm,
to understand that. But again, if we go back to the root cause of all this, is it's advertising driven, and those that are not monetized on YouTube, you get nothing.
right.
You get nothing, and they earn dollars off you by the advertising they put in your content. And I say
Mhm,
in your content because they interrupt your content to play an ad, and you
right.
get nothing. So if that's the experience you want your audience to have, then move forth and have, I'm just, maybe I'm over the top here, but yeah, Rick Savoya said it's a huge mousetrap and the podcasters are the mice. That's a good way to put it. It's the fishing lure that's in the water, and the big pike or big bass sees that, says, "Yummy, yummy." And then you get reeled in, and then you get beat over the head and then cooked in a frying pan.
Or
So
the, or or the boiling water of with the frog, right? Yeah.
right. Yeah, exactly.
But, nonetheless, that platform is the second largest search
Of
engine. But
course. Well,
but how is
how's
how
that
is AI gonna change that, Todd? I mean, how are you thinking about your SEO strategies in regards to,
oh,
AI's
oh,
growth?
I'm already implementing go wide, go wide, go wide, go wide.
So when you
Yeah,
say go wide, what does
gotta
that
be
mean?
and podcasting is actually set up well for AI because we're already wide, we're already distributed everywhere.
Mhm.
So, the more you're picked up by a model, the more chances you're gonna have of being surfaced as a source. So, podcasters are already pretty wide in distribution, so, but yeah, because what does it do? It's looking for how many times Todd and Robert talked about either on LinkedIn or wherever they're scraping, and they are scraping and basically building these models off of ripped off content. But at that same point, they're going to beg forgiveness later and pay a penalty to someone. We're not going to see a penny of it, but in order, SEO is going to change. I worry. It's not just podcasters. It's your small business down the road. They've already been affected by AI and by Facebook, because if they're not surfaced, if you ask for a plumber, there used to be you could go to the yellow pages and see 10 plumber ads. And there's no yellow pages anymore. It, it's
Yeah.
it's it's a Google Maps thing. Show me the plumbers in my area.
Mhm.
And Google is the key holder to all that. And then who knows what's going to happen with all this? It's a dangerous time for businesses. If your business, there's a, I think I said this on the show already, and this is how you're going to have to plan as a podcaster to prepare for what is happening already, is that you have to have a religion on what people love you for. You have to have a religion.
Or following.
Well, the religion is you as the content creator have to know what people love you for and make sure you lean into that, so that as this whole ecosphere changes, your existing audience will continue to help spread the word, um, because you're not going to be found in search probably. And these gatekeeping platforms are only going to surface content that they think should be seen. You're not going to get discovered unless you have a huge following. So people that are new coming in to creating content, they're going to have even more challenges of being discovered and seen. Um, you search for podcasts on YouTube, podcast about podcasts. I doubt this show comes up. I'd be very surprised if it did.
Yeah, I don't think our metadata plays into that either. So,
So
yeah, because we're
yeah,
using the name New Media Show, which
yeah,
doesn't come up.
no. So you have to play their game, and people that are
Mhm.
video first understand this game.
But at the same time, AI, if you ask OpenAI what the top 10 or the top 20
Yeah,
um,
and we'll come up in that list
podcasts
sometime.
about podcasting, we come up in probably the top 5 or the top 10.
Sometimes,
Yeah, sometimes.
but what does a company like Blubrry do when someone is looking, "Hey, I wanna start a podcast." Can Google step on the scales then and say, "Oh, you wanna start a podcast? Come over to YouTube."
Well, I kinda wonder at some point if these new AI models are gonna sell prioritization on
Oh, I'm sure.
output, right?
How can
So
they
when
not?
you ask for what's the most popular podcast host, then
Yeah,
you're gonna have
they have to, or their business model collapse. You look at their business model is based on Google Ads. They something that either way, Google goes broke. How do they're still gonna have Google Ads, it's just gonna be adapted.
so if we think about, AI sucking up video and audio content as part of their data set, right?
Yeah,
How do we see, advertising playing into that? How do we see monetization strategies playing into that on the output side,
I
right?
think that's all being I think we're in uncharted territory here. There's a lot of people asking those exact questions. There's only speculation at this point. So time will tell. But I know when I'm doing Google searches now, I'm getting AI summaries versus search results, and it's pissing me off because half of it's junk.
Hmm.
And I have to scroll down, and then it gives me, it's you have to go half a page before you find search results anymore. So, Perplexity and platforms like that, which people are using.
It'd be interesting, Todd, to do a search query in just straight up Google, searching for how to start a podcast and see what the results are from a straight up, Google search, and then go over and make the same query into Gemini
Oh yeah.
on the Google platform and see what the output, how the output's different. Um, and it would, I know that the podcast hosts, many of them are paying a lot of money to be over
Oh,
in the
they're paying
search
huge amounts
results,
of money.
right? So as people shift their usage over to AI as a replacement
Yeah.
for traditional Google search,
Yeah.
then what's going to get surfaced first?
Yeah.
Is it going to be the same people that are paying?
It's a question to be asked. One way or another, Rob, they're going to get their money.
Yeah. Well, it's going to
Otherwise,
be at this point, it's going to be a subscription model to
otherwise,
Google's AI,
otherwise
right?
they're gonna. Otherwise, people are gonna. Otherwise, Google's gonna go broke. So I don't
Well, I
know.
think the model is OpenAI Chat GPT, right? It's a subscription model. That could be where the future of Google really lives, is in a subscription model, not as an advertising model.
So Dead America says it does help pay for hosting the video file. Well, if you want a true video podcast,
You can do that too.
that's right. So,
Only a few places at this point.
but at the same time, who wants to pay when it's free?
And that's always been
Yeah.
the value equation for YouTube.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's just, we're playing the game. We've added this new content link. It'll be out in PowerPress next week, so that you can link your YouTube video and it will play in some of the new podcasting apps. So you can have a video podcast show up in the playlist, and we're just, basically they're taking the embed of the publicly available media, and you're playing it. You're not downloading it. You can't watch it offline.
So is
So
that being done through the alternate enclosure tag?
not anymore. There's a change. Alternate enclosure will only be physical files,
Mm.
different
Okay,
encodings,
so
MP3, different
okay.
languages, whatever you want to do. And then the
The
now
on-demand stream?
the on-demand stream will be via what's called the content link. It'll be
Content link. Right,
yeah,
okay.
via the content link. But
Yeah,
again,
so what's the spectrum that you can put in that link? Pretty much anything?
Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, really, you can put any link that has a media file. It's what you're supposed to do. So it's just purely a hyperlink to the content. And then the player has to recognize the content, whether it's a Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, YouTube, or
Does it
on
does it
Blubrry.com or on,
does it dynamically spin up a player inside the app via the link to the platform? Or
if it's a YouTube video, it'll play the YouTube player right in the app.
okay, it's an embed of sorts.
Yeah.
It's what it turns into.
It's the formal, but so you're gonna see ads.
Yeah, because it's
you're
pulling
not
off of their ad server and
sure.
their platform, right?
Yeah. Yep, so it's not gonna be a perfect experience.
So you could do the same thing with a link to, let's say, a Vimeo file or something
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely, sure. As a matter of
Okay.
fact, that I would probably recommend that, to have a better
Mhm.
experience, but most people are not paying $500 a year for a Vimeo account either, or 600 or whatever it costs.
Yeah.
So therein lies the challenge per se.
Yeah, it does.
But again, when we talk to the average podcaster that is not wrapped around the axle about getting advertising, that they're not worried about video. So I think this is the thing we have to keep reiterating, is those that are wanting to make money, that their livelihood is based upon ads,
Mhm.
they're greedy and they want more money. They're a business. So what is their goal? To make more money. So I don't blame them.
Yeah,
But
and that's a big, huge priority in the podcasting space now. People want to if they want to spend time making content, they want to earn a living from it. I think that expectation has been set by YouTube,
Well,
really.
but most people on YouTube make nothing. The majority of
That's true.
shows on YouTube, this show makes nothing on YouTube. 0. There's never been enough hours in a year. People don't watch this on YouTube enough to qualify for monetization. So,
Though I believe this channel has enough subscribers to qualify.
oh yeah,
Just
that's enough.
does it have enough watch hours is
No,
the
no,
question.
not enough watch hours. But we don't focus on YouTube. We're on Twitch, we're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we're everywhere. So,
Mhm.
this is being dual streamed to your channel to my channel. And your channel has more of a dedicated focus. You are monetized, but I'm not because my
Mhm.
focus is not YouTube.
Yeah, I got the trifecta qualifications to be a monetized channel, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's still hard to grow scale.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not easy.
It's just like anything else. It's hard to grow a podcast because you gotta grind. You
Yeah.
know, it's
You have to
not, that's the main
create
thing. People gotta, and there was a good article on Pod News talking about creators. We're not looking at creators, helping creators tell stories. There's a lot of talk about monetization. There's a lot of talk about the XYZs and
Mhm.
how things, best practices, but I don't know if you can teach storytelling. That's almost like going to journalism school. Um,
That is an interesting perspective, Todd, and I have seen those comments on social media too about I mean, if you think about it, pretty much all podcasting is storytelling.
right.
It's just how long are the stories and how thoughtful are they, right?
Yeah.
Or is it just conversation?
Yeah.
Because conversations can be stories too, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a different kind of conversation though, or storytelling.
Rick says you can bet YouTube is running ads in the new media show. Absolutely, they are. They're running ads for sure. If I log out of YouTube and go to new media show, that's the first thing you see is 60 seconds worth of ads before anything starts.
Yeah.
And it interrupts the show and sure. So, we're talking about the same dog food we're putting in front of everybody here, it's if you don't pay for that.
Yeah.
Uh,
No,
so
that's certainly true. It's the same thing if we were to get this content into Rumble or into
we're in
Spotify.
Rumble. We're in Rumble. We're streaming into Rumble right now.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't
But I
realize
don't
that.
think we have maybe 3 people who watch it over there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think I've got 5 subscribers because I don't put no time into it. I don't go over there and
Yeah.
promote and, play with their
I don't
yeah,
think we ever mentioned it that we're over
yeah.
on the Rumble platform. I know
So
I
there's
haven't plugged it into my, my live streaming account either.
we get more reaction on LinkedIn from this show than we do anywhere else. LinkedIn the show's on LinkedIn, on my profile on LinkedIn, so it does pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a bunch of platforms that you can play with.
Yeah.
Um,
This is cool. Rick says, "At least Rumble will allow you to monetize on 5 subscribers." Oh, that's interesting. I don't know if I've got 5 over there, Rick.
well, we should just talk about it more and
Yeah,
have people over there take a look at it.
'cause then I can really
It's probably the largest competitor to YouTube.
then I can really swear like a sailor over there, you know?
Well, I think we'd have to do half of the show here, Todd, and then half the show just on Rumble in order
Y
to talk about the topics we might wanna talk about.
yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah,
Well,
I
anyway,
know lots of content creators that do that.
we've lived up to our, reputation recently of just talking about video today.
Yeah, I guess it's true. It's hard not to talk about it when you're doing it, right?
Well, but and at the same time, I'm living in a world where I'm not talking about it to customers. So, they're worried about growing their show, you know, and build an audience and,
Yeah,
making sure that, asking me why their podcast didn't show up in Apple Podcast in 10 minutes, those types of
yeah, sure,
questions,
sure. Well, it's not to exclude those type of conversations, but
Yeah.
I guess it's the it's it's the big shiny thing, I guess, and that's what, you've been saying for a long time, right?
Yeah. And I just, I think this audience is already well atoned to our opinion here. So maybe we're just talking to the wall, but we don't hear about too many of this listening audience talking to us about whether or not they're embracing video and if they've seen an uptick or is it money wasted? What it, again, when I did the reason going back to the original reason I did video all the way back 15 years ago, God, is the I wanted the chat, just like Rick putting in here, at least Rumble allow you to monetize. I wanted some interaction. So for me, live is where it's at, and video is a substance of that. Now we're streaming this in audio as well. Looking here, there's been no boost that's come in, but let's see if anybody's streaming sats today. Um,
Well,
yeah,
let's say it, Todd, too, back when we started live streaming this show, I mean, both of us are geeks, right? So
yeah,
we
yeah,
like
yeah,
to play
yeah,
around with
yeah,
technology, and it's like
yeah,
we're always trying to push the envelope on what's possible.
right.
And I think that that was part of us getting involved in video. I certainly, and I don't know that you did. I think you did earlier on. We're probably a little more serious about video than even I was, because I didn't have office lights or
Right,
studio
right,
lights
right,
or anything
right.
like that for a long time. I
Yeah.
did it on a cheap webcam,
Well, here I
and
am
it just
today. I've
wasn't.
got two Chinese knockoff ring lights that are making me look blue in the screen. So,
No, you're.
yeah, but
I'd say that your color looks good on my screen.
yeah, it's
So.
getting hot in here too. I've got the air condition turned off. So
Oh, you
temperature
do?
went
Okay.
up about 15 degrees. I'm starting to sweat.
Yeah, I think we're almost at the 90-minute mark anyway, Todd.
And
So you.
and believe it or not, this show's gonna come out later because I'm going to bed immediately when we get done here, and I'll publish the show tonight my time when I wake up.
Yeah,
Um, but
sounds like a good deal, Todd.
anyway,
Yep. So
anywho,
any obstacle in doing the show next Wednesday?
no, no,
No? Okay.
we're good. I'm traveling this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm going to a province. I'm going to go to
Oh,
Rombalin,
wow.
which is another island. So that's on my to-do list this week. And then I'll be here. I don't think I'm going to be doing too much traveling after that, too much anyway. Just hanging out in the locale that I am. But I am going to be happy not being in the United States during the election. I don't have to listen to all the whoever won or lost and all the brouhaha that potentially could happen from that.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
It's gonna be an interesting next couple of weeks, no question
yeah,
about it.
yeah. There's going to be 50% of the country is going to be pissed off no matter what. So, yeah, it is what it
Yep,
is.
it is. There's nothing you can do about it at this point.
Well, as people can't leave their politics at the door. Those days are gone. So,
Well, I mean, that comes from just, a passion and a caring, right? So people are passionate about their views, and
yeah, yeah,
they
maybe.
think that they're the right views,
Yeah.
and so, I do appreciate the passion.
I don't, what I don't like is the name calling either
Yeah,
way.
I don't either. I mean, it can't go
Yeah,
beyond a certain point. I
yeah.
agree, and I think
I
we
know.
are
I think
falling down a rabbit hole, right?
yeah, and I think it's good to have discourse and
It
conversation
is.
and
Yeah.
to argue. And I've said it on this show before. My grandfather was the best, and he was a staunch Republican. But someone come in the driveway and wanted to bitch about the country, he would flip sides. He'd become the Democrat for the afternoon. He played devil's advocate, and it was fascinating to me as a young kid sitting there watching this. And he says, "There's no fun discussion without a little bit of challenge." And I thought, very
It's
interesting.
the spice of disagreement in perspective, right?
Yeah,
So people have a different, kind of view of the world, and their perceptions drive
yeah.
their thoughts, and
And a lot of people don't even
yeah.
pay attention. They don't care. They go
Right.
about their lives and they don't look at politics and they don't they just They watch their TikTok reels. And
Yeah,
they
and you can't just. I mean, I agree with that thought, Todd. I don't think you can just look at superficial information about this and from one source or
no,
consistently from one source and draw your conclusions. I think you have to look at a variety of different type of access points to different topics and issues and things like that to have a broad stroke of
but but
understanding
but
and
we're
being
at
able to accept other views
yeah,
too.
but we're at a point, what can you trust anymore? You
Well,
know, you can't even, you can't even
yeah,
trust, major news organizations for splicing in, you know, responses to questions. And when you have that
but then
happen,
you trust AI, right?
right?
Can you just like what happened to us today? It's
Yeah.
like, can you trust what AI says
Yeah.
about things?
I think you can only
S
trust true voices, someone that's watching the show or listening to the show, either like us or you hate us, one of the two.
'cause sometimes it's pretty obvious. Somebody's put the thumb on the scale of AI and said that it needs to have this perspective on it. 'Cause I
Absolutely.
at times I've challenged OpenAI in its assumptions of what they tell me, and it comes back and says, "Well, you're right from that perspective."
Yeah. Well, I found a new feature. Look at this.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, wow, look at that. Well,
So you can
anyway,
see
all the
all the
comments.
questions,
Yeah.
comments.
Overall, though, I think what it is in the end, we have to remember these systems were built and controls were put in by humans who have biases. So,
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, my hope has been, and I talk about this on my Trust Factor show. I did a whole show on AI and robots, just a few weeks ago, and is that my hope is that AI will be the tiebreaker.
oh, I don't know, because again, it's not at that point, Rob.
Well, I
Maybe
know
5
it's
years.
not, but my hope is if humans don't interfere with it, and it
Yeah,
is open to access to all the information that's available on a particular topic or subject, that it will be able to break that and actually find what the truth is.
yeah, in the end, it's code. I don't know. We'll see.
That's yeah.
I don't know if I'm that hopeful yet.
I don't believe me, I don't think it's realistic that that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
But
if it
but it would
doesn't
be
kill us
if
or
it did.
collapse on itself, that'll be a miracle
Right,
in itself, so
right.
okay, let's
Yeah.
get out of here.
Alright.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, I'm Todd at blueberry.com, at Geek News on Twitter. Of course, we've been live at newmediashow.com/live and all the other locations, so please go over to newmediashow.com and follow or subscribe. Rob?
I can be found on X as well, at, Rob Greenlee, and that's with 2 E's on the end, as you can see on the screen if you're watching the video, and that's my email address if you wanna reach out and give us a little tip about something that's going on that, you know, you wanna share with us that we will talk discreetly about on the show. That would be great to hear from you. And I can be found on my own website, robgreenlee.com as well, and, on all the social platforms, and I do lots of shows and content and trying to play around with as many tools and gear as I can. So, yeah.
And I'm a big fan of this studio.restream.io. Any of you looking for a new home after StreamYard has screwed you over, $50 a month. Um,
But yeah.
well, they did. They raised the prices, and
Well, they did.
we'll call a spade here. I wish I could raise my prices 50%. I would probably not have a business 2 months later.
Yeah, I still have an account over there that I use for the shows that I do, but
Yeah.
they actually pulled out from what I can tell, they pulled out the local recordings from the platform.
Oh.
So it's
Oh.
all cloud. It's all cloud recordings now. And and it's a lot faster now to process the content that's created over there
Mm.
and get it out of the platform because remember all those months that we were having
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
delays in our publishing of our shows was because I was trying to work with local recordings and it was taking hours to export.
Yeah.
So,
You might need a
I
Mac for that.
no, it was StreamYard. No, I've got a Core i9 Windows computer, so
Okay.
it's fast as hell.
So
So
we'll see what happens today when I hit end stream, how hard it is to get the video out. So,
I
okay,
think it'll be quick if it's a cloud recording.
yeah,
So
should be. We'll
yeah,
see. But they've
yeah.
done a good job over here. This is a good replacement. So, and I've only tapped 10% of what this thing can do. They can share screens and all that stuff too. So I'll play with it more and know more next week. All right, everyone. Thank you. We'll see you back
All right.
here again. We're at a new time, 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays versus 3, and it's because of my relocation to the
Travels.
Philippines
Right.
through the beginning of January. All right.
So how long are we going this through the end of January? Is that what you said?
January 7th is when I return to
Wow.
the
Wow.
US.
Just in time for Podfest, huh?
Exactly. And that's probably the only reason I'm coming home.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, everyone. See you
All right.
later.